Donald Trump shared an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory on social media to basically justify elder abuse at the hands of Buffalo, New York police officers. Now, this has to do with a story that we've been following since last week. 75-year-old Martin Gugino was viciously shoved to the ground by cops in Buffalo, New York. And after he was seen on the ground bleeding from his ear, they refused to help him in any way. Now, this has obviously drawn a lot of negative attention to the Buffalo Police Department, and Trump has shared a ridiculous conspiracy theory to try to smear and trash the victim in this story. So let me read you what the tweet is. And again, this is unsubstantiated, and I'll show you where he got this conspiracy theory from in just a minute. But he writes on Twitter, Buffalo protesters shoved by police could be an Antifa provocateur. 75-year-old Martin Gugino was pushed away after appearing to scan police communications in order to black out the equipment. OANN, a crazy unhinged right-wing organization, that was my add-on to that. I watched, he fell harder than was pushed, was aiming scanner, could be a setup? So where did he get this from, Cenk? Well, none other than OANN, which shared this conspiracy theory, provided absolutely no evidence, absolutely no sources, and was narrated by someone who works for a Russian propaganda organization known as Sputnik. And he also sounds like a literal bot. So here's a segment or a portion from that segment.
Released videos appear to show Gugino using a police tracker on his phone, trying to scan police communications during the protest. The tactic known as skimming is an old trick used by ANTIFA to locate police officers and plan violent activities bypassing the police response. In addition, the 75-year-old, who's been referred to as an agitator, was supposedly using the technology to black out police communications. That, however, didn't quite work, and many Buffalo police officers support their embattled colleagues.
This country is a complete and utter nightmare, and it's because we have a literal troll who's hiding out in a bunker right now. Like, he's in a fortress that he's constructed around the White House because he's so afraid of the protesters, and he's just sitting there in his bunker tweeting out the types of things that you would expect a troll to tweet out, and not having to face any of the consequences because he's not going out in the public, he's not leading, he's not showing any level of competence whatsoever, which is honestly an understatement at this point. And he's just pathetic. Like, what's even more pathetic, Cenk, is, yes, the president's doing this, okay? But there's a portion of the country that totally buys into this. 75-year-old elderly man pushed to the ground, seen bleeding from his ear as he's laying there, and somehow he's the bad guy, according to Trump, and around 30% of this country. Okay.
Anna, but you seem to be leaving out the fact that he fell harder than he was pushed. I mean, look, the insanity of this tweet knows no bounds. And to the point where even his allies are running for the hills. This is just, even for them, this is beyond the bounds of not just reason, but now insanity. I mean, it's a whole different
level.
Barely, though. People are talking about
Barely.
Yeah. I mean, but like, it's mainly his critics that are Republicans that are saying he has a diseased mind, which I've been saying for a long time. In fact, I'll give you a tweet in a second from a guy I can't stand. But who looks at that and sees a 75-year-old in a pool of blood, which even that crazy right-wing network showed, and thinks fell harder than he was pushed? This is part of his conspiracy to bang his head against the concrete so hard that he would bleed from the ear and be hospitalized now nearly a week later, still in the hospital. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was his own conspiracy, that he would somehow trick the cops into smashing his head in until he almost died. So now
let's do an experiment. Let's do an experiment. Let's get those two cops who have been charged with second-degree assault to use the same level of force against Donald Trump. Let's do it. Let's do an experiment. Be a leader, Trump. Be a leader. You're so brave. coward, complete and utter coward, like a little boy, little 14-year-old child, or like behind his little fortress, like pooping in his pants because he's so scared, right? And at the same time, just putting out nonsense provocations, unsubstantiated allegations and conspiracies about people who've been victimized by police brutality. He's an agent of chaos, and he should be institutionalized. I'm not even, at first I was like, no, we're not mental health professionals. Like, how much more can we take? How much more evidence do we need that this is a kind of person who needs to be institutionalized? He is a danger to society. He needs to be locked away in a mental health facility, and he should be receiving treatment. He's insane.
Well, look, I'd like to take credit for saying that from day one, and I got a lot of blowback for many years. I go, Cenk, you can't talk about his mental state like that. You're not a clinical therapist. I mean, everybody.
Don't care anymore.
Yeah,
don't care.
And honestly, it wasn't even Republicans as much as it was Democrats. But now here I'll get to the guy who apparently I agree with him, but only on this. Anyway, Dan Pfeiffer from the Obama administration, who's a classic establishment Democrat, who, all those guys in the beginning poo-pooed how crazy Donald Trump was. Now he says Trump's latest tweet is a reminder that he is not a political genius, marketing savant, or master media manipulator. He's a deeply stupid narcissist that stumbled backwards into the presidency despite getting millions of fewer votes. I mean, everybody who watches the Young Turks knows I said that from day one. Deeply stupid, no strategy. It has taken 3.5 years for people to go, oh my God, he might not have any strategy at all. Of course! I've been telling you that for so long. Deeply stupid, completely narcissistic. Okay, so now, but let's talk about this, the political ramifications of this. Cheerleading a 75-year-old getting his head bashed in, bleeding from the ear, and having the cops step over him and not attend to him, that's not going to help you with the senior citizen vote. And that is used to be your bastion, what carried the election for you in 2016. He won the above 65 vote by 13 points in 2016. Wow, 13 points, even though he would cut Social Security and Medicare in a heartbeat. He'd destroy them in a heartbeat. But he won anyway because people don't know. All they hear is TV and they watch The Apprentice. Look, there's some wonderful folks in that community, including Martin Gugino, that we absolutely love and adore. But unfortunately, the majority only watch TV, from which they get absolutely no real information. So anyway, now, already before the Gugino incident, he's 15 points underwater with above 65-year-old voters. That's a 28-point swing. When your biggest voting base in terms of age demographics is concerned has had a 28-point swing, and then you cheerlead an assault on a 75-year-old, you are a political idiot. So it is incredibly damaging. Now, to your point, Anna, about how we're being, I think you said being controlled at some point or whatever. That guy, the Russian bot that we heard, yeah, he worked at Sputnik. If you're one of those folks on the left who are still like, oh, no, don't criticize anything Russian. Don't criticize anything Russian. I could have been a totally normal person who worked at Sputnik. Yeah, all right. Last month, that same reporter reported that coronavirus was a cover by George Soros, Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, the Clintons, and China for population control. So, no. The Russian government is clearly putting operatives into right-wing media, and whether that's what's affecting Trump Trump independently also is getting those same messages. It doesn't matter because the final result is a Russian operative or Russian reporter now blames their two main enemies, America and China, for starting coronavirus along with Soros and Clinton. And it goes all the way up to the president, and the president broadcasts it, and 30% of the country believes it. And, that's what you said, Anna. He's an agent of chaos. Mm-hmm. Putting aside the movie illusions, yes! And what did Russia want? They wanted chaos in the country. Mission totally accomplished. You really have to give Putin credit It was masterful. And now, I mean, for all those years I was growing up, the right wing said that the left wing would get controlled by Russia. And now, like the dolts that they are, so easily controlled by the Russian government. Okay.
No, it's incredible though. I mean, look, it really is a sight to see. It's a sight to see that there is a significant chunk of this country that is now advocating for elder abuse. Like, just clearly 100% making excuses for what we saw last week, which was one of the most disgusting displays of police brutality I've seen, mostly because we're talking about someone who's 75 years old. Like, I can't get over the fact that it's elder abuse. It's elder abuse, right? Like every other story we've covered, there have been people who have tried to find something, right? Something that the victim did that was a provocation, something that the victim allegedly did wrong, which of course I never bought into any of that. But in this case, how are you going to argue that a 75-year-old was a threat to the freaking stormtroopers that we saw in that video? There were dozens of them against a 75-year-old man. It's just pathetic. And as he lay there bleeding from his ear, none of them wanted to help except for one individual, one cop, and he was discouraged from doing so. And so, look, Trump is easy to manipulate because everyone knows what Trump wants to hear. All you have to do is say things that you know Trump wants to hear that would minimize or at least discredit the legitimacy of these protests that are happening right now. And of course he's going to run with it. Of course he's going to tweet about it. This is what he does. He's done it from day one. And for all the Republicans who are getting credit right now for speaking out against what Trump had to say on Twitter about Martin Gugino, you know, I'm only going to give credit to one person, and it's Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney had the strongest statement. Here's what he had to say. I'm going to skip ahead to his comment. I saw that tweet. It was a shocking thing to say, and I won't dignify it with any further comment. That was, in my opinion, the strongest comment. Lisa Murkowski, who keeps getting credit for like her mild criticisms of Donald Trump, also commented, Senator Lisa Murkowski, after reading a printed out version of Trump's tweet given to her by political congressional reporter Burgess Everett, reportedly gasped and said, "Oh my Lord, again? Why would you fan the flames? That's all I'm going to say." Wow, Murkowski, brave, super, super brave. Like, why are you surprised? This is what Donald Trump does. This is who Donald Trump is. This is who Donald Trump is. And part of the reason why he was able to get as far as he has is because he's had nothing but bootlickers like you surrounding him because you're so afraid of being politically incorrect and offending Donald Trump's base. Because our democracy doesn't matter, our constitutional rights don't matter, doing the right thing by your own constituents doesn't even matter. The only thing that matters to these Republican lawmakers is their own asses, their own political careers, and that's it. None of these people have ever been so-called constitutionalists. None of them have ever cared about our freedoms. None of them have ever cared about the troops or the safety and well-being of American citizens. And I think that the Trump presidency has made that abundantly clear. We have nothing more than a bunch of cowards in Congress right now who have done nothing more than embolden this child who continues to fan the flames of division in this country.
Yeah. So last two things here. First of all, look, the number one thing that was said about Trump for 3.5 years that drove me crazy is, oh, he's doing that tweet or he's saying that outrageous, horrible, horrific thing as a distraction from the other horrific thing he said. No, there's never any strategy. He's not a distraction. He's just an idiot. So we reported on day one, The Intercept and the Young Turks did, about the groups that Martin Gugino is actually part of. It is not Antifa. He's part of Push Buffalo, which focuses on affordable housing. He's also part of the Western New York Peace Center. Oh my God, a 75-year-old who wants peace. Outrageous.
Bad boy.
And he's part of the Catholic worker movement. And he's also part of Plowshares, which we told you about before. They are anti-nuclear activists who are driven by their Catholic faith. So a guy who is deeply religious, as opposed to a guy who holds the Bible upside down after he tear gassed pastors off of that same church's porch. So, gee, I wonder who's belongs to the right organizations and who doesn't. But I hope every senior citizen in the country sees Donald Trump, sees that video, and then sees Donald Trump defending it, because he might lose every state in the country if they see that.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.